Hi there, this is Jacqueline with Nickel and Dime Decor. Thank you for joining me today. This is the second part of our baby scrap quilt with no pattern. And I'm going to be showing you the layout of it, and you can do it whatever way you want. This is just my idea of how to do it, how I made mine. But you can rearrange these 14 rows just however you want them. Don't always think you have to have a pattern. You can come up with some things yourself. And you're going to be amazed at how much fabric you remember if you watched the first part. You saw all of my fabric scraps, and you're not going to believe what I've got left for the back. So that's it, and stay tuned, and I'm going to show you what I have laid out. What I've done is I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 rows. That was my original plan. I have staggered the blocks, what I cut out. And I started way over here on this side, which you can't see. I started with, if you want to get a piece of paper, this is 6.5. I started with a 6.5. Then I did a 4.5, 3.5, 6.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, and 3.5. Now, I did different on the next row because this is a patchwork quilt. And I don't want seams going up and down in rows. I want it to be staggered where the seams, here's a seam and here's a seam. They don't meet. I don't want any of them to meet. Now, I just discovered that this right here meets right here. And I really want to change that. So let's see how we can do that. Simply by moving this around. Do you see what I did? Just switching them around. Now I don't have that seam running together. I want them staggered. Well, no, there's that seam. I might just have to cope with it, I guess, because it looks like I'm not going to be able to change. So, disregard that. I do have one row that's like that, and I don't know how to change that. Just like that. You have to play around with it. All right. Now, your next row, I copied the bottom row. And then the next row, I copied the second row. The second row, get a piece of paper now. The second row is 4.5, 3.5, 6.5, 6.5, 3.5, 5.5, 4.5, and 6.5. Okay, let's go back over the first row. 6.5, 4.5, 3.5, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, 4.5, and 3.5. And then just alternate them. And that way you don't have any seams to match, nowhere. Your next row, you will not have any seams to match. Now, I've got a pretty good balance of my purples and my pinks. And now, look at all of this fabric I had left. Out of those scraps, I probably could make another one. But what I'm going to do is use them on the back. And I don't think you can see up here, but I have simply put together a 9 patch out of my 4.5-inch squares. And I'm gonna put that in the middle. I have some pink fabric, but I want to put this big 9.5-inch, the 9 patch with the 4.5-inch squares. I'm gonna sew it together. And then I think this 9 patch is with the 3.5, and so is the other one. And I think they will go one on each side. And I'll see if it works. If I need to add another one, or if I need to add the pink in between, whatever, it's gonna be a makeshift back, because I don't wanna make a border. This has no border. It's too busy for a border unless it's a solid. If you want to put a solid 4-inch border, you feel free to do so. But this baby quilt is plenty big enough. Now it's gonna shrink down a little, of course, after I've sewn all of it together. But I think if I need to, I'll add a few rows. But I'm not gonna add borders. And like I say, I have some solid purples, I have some solid pinks, and I have all of these. So the next video will be on the back. I'm gonna go ahead and piece all of these. Now, if you run across one that you've put the two colors too close together, just switch them all out. Just try to balance your darks, some darks everywhere, and your fabrics. And just make a good balance. The purples are all such different shades, but if you'll notice, they all blend, and they all. Okay, I wanted to show you a closer look at everything. Isn't that pretty? I think it is. I love how all the colors just blend so nicely. They're all so different. But you know, that little baby's going to have a lot to look at, and she's going to be busy looking at all those fabrics. Now, a closer look up here at my 9 patch. That's with the 4.5-inch squares, and this one are with the 3.5-inch. And I'm going to make more of them, but I don't know how I'm going to sew them all together yet. I don't know what the back. See, that's all for the back. And we'll just make a whole new video on the back. So after I get this all pieced together, I'll show it to you, and then I'll show you kind of what I've decided for the back. And I sure hope you'll make it, and write down what you put, like, you know, the size of your squares. Write it down, like row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, if that helps you. And write down what it is. Almost every one of the rows have 3 6.5-inch lengths, and then it might vary on the rest of it, but every one of them has 6.5-inch square, 3 of them on each row. Okay, and like I said, no border, and oh, we didn't even mention the binding. I'm not gonna sew all those squares together down there to make the binding. That'd be way too much trouble. But with some of my solid purples, that's probably what I'll do, is because it's so busy, the pattern is, I'll just take a purple and cut it out for the binding. Okay, I'm gonna sew it together, and then you come back next week and we'll look and see about the back, okay? You gotta get busy. Bye.